Hello from the Longwood Public Library, and welcome to D&D Basics, where we'll help you learn about the tabletop role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons. I'm Ms. Sukhu.
And I'm Ms. Duspiva.
And we're both librarians in True North, Longwood's teen department. And we're also your resident Dungeon Masters.
Today we're going to start with a basic introduction to what Dungeons & Dragons, or D&D, is, let you know what you need to get started, and then show off some free resources to start playing.
So first, we'll start off with the most important question. What is D&D?
Well, according to the D&D 5th edition Player's Handbook, the Dungeons & Dragons role-playing game is about storytelling in worlds of swords and sorcery. It shares elements with childhood games of make-believe. Like those games, D&D is driven by imagination. It's about picturing the towering castle beneath the stormy night sky and imagining how a fantasy adventurer might react to the challenges that scene presents.
So, really, it's a game of imagination, but with some structure and rules, and you're working together as players to create an interactive story.
Each game of D&D has two player roles, the players and the Dungeon Master, or DM. Each player creates a character, and those characters work together in a party to explore the story.
The DM is the lead storyteller and helps the players navigate the fictional world that they've created, as well as the rules of the Dungeons & Dragons game.
And while the player plays one character, the DM plays every other character in the story, and describes all the environments the characters are in too.
Since the DM can improvise any consequence or reaction that the players choose, D&D can be infinitely flexible and infinitely fun.
What adds to the fun is that sometimes the success or failure of a choice is left to fate by using the roll of the dice. D&D mainly uses a 20-sided dice, or a d20, to determine the outcomes of your actions. This is what it looks like.
We'll go over all the dice in a future video, but for now, the d20 is the most important one to know. Basically, a 20 is the best you can do on a roll, while a 1 is the worst.
Usually what happens in a game is the DM describes a scene, the player chooses to make an action, and the DM asks the player to roll to see if they can accomplish that action.
Then, based on the roll and how difficult the DM deems the task to be, the DM describes how the player either fails or succeeds, and what the narrative consequences of the action are.
So, what does all of this really look like when you're playing? Well, here's an example. As you walk through the entryway to the abandoned castle, a long hallway stands before you, the musty smell of rot and dust overwhelming your senses. In the torchlight, cobwebs cling to the corners of the ceiling. Before you, a rug stretches along the hallway, leading to a door that has two statues of knights holding great axes on each side.
I want to walk up to the knight statues. I have a bad feeling about them. Do I see anything that tells me they might come to life?
Sure, roll me an investigation check.
Okay. I got a 6.
Okay. You take a closer look at the knights, but the layers of dust on them make it hard to see any mechanisms that would help them move. They look like decoration to you.
Okay. I want to try and open the door.
Alright. As you walk past the two knights, you hear a click. The door opens, but at the same time, the statue's great axes swing out towards you.
I knew it! I want to try and dodge them.
Okay, roll me a dexterity check to see if you can get out of the way.
Okay. 19.
Okay, great. As the edges of their blades bear down on you, the metal cuts through the empty air as you deftly duck and roll underneath. You spring up on the other side of their reach, panting, but unharmed. The door remains open, and before you, another dark hallway.
That back and forth cycle repeats, and then, guess what? You're playing D&D.
And don't worry, the outfits are optional, but in terms of what's necessary, here's how you get started, and some free resources to boot.
To get a game of Dungeons & Dragons started, you need to do 5 things. Read the rules, choose a Dungeon Master, make characters, get some dice, and pick an adventure.
For this part, any websites we mention will be available in the video's description, so make sure to check that out.
First, make sure to read those rules. While the Dungeon Master has final say over any rule decisions made in-game, as a player, understanding the rules makes the game run smoother.
Wizards of the Coast, the creators of D&D, have a handbook of those rules online that's made for both players and DMs, and it's completely free. We're giving only a small introduction. The best way to get the full scope of the game is to take a look at those rules. The creators of D&D have done a lot of work to make it easy to understand.
Next, choose someone in your group to be the Dungeon Master. They'll be choosing the world, the adventures, and present fun challenges to the player.
Then, those players need to make characters. You'll use something called a character sheet to do that, which compiles all your abilities in one place. Before you know it, you'll have your fantasy adventurer to take on an epic quest.
There are digital and printable versions of the character sheets available on the Dungeons & Dragons website.
You'll also need dice, a 7-piece set of multi-sided dice called polyhedral dice, including the D20. Just like there's a D20, there's a D4, a D6, D8, and more.
You can find physical sets at game stores and online, but there are plenty of free online dice rollers and apps that you can use. That includes an official dice roller on the D&D website, an app called RPG Simple Dice on the Google Play Store, or Dice & Dragons on the Apple App Store.
And finally, you need an adventure. The Dungeon Master is the one that'll read the full adventure and then run it. Wizards of the Coast publishes adventures that make it easy to jump into lands of myth and magic.
While the published adventures are available for purchase, we have some at the library, and there are also free adventures online. DM's Guild is a website where both the official publishers and members of the community share their adventures. You can adjust the search filters to only look for free content.
And as a disclaimer, content on the DM's Guild ranges from family-friendly to mature. Always make sure to read the description and the adventure before playing it to make sure it's appropriate for your group.
And that's how you can get a D&D game started.
And that's all for today's D&D Basics. Check out the video description for links to the resources we mentioned. If this all sounds cool, go ahead, give it a shot, take a look at the rules, and roll the dice.
Tune in next video where we'll go over character creation. See you soon!